Hello, and welcome to episode 15 of Mo Money, Mo Houses, the personal finance podcast with a dash of sass. I'm your host, Jessica Morehouse, and today I am interviewing a very special lady. She was actually introduced to me through my husband because they both know each other through the music industry. So her name is Angela Mastrogiacomo, and she started as a blogger, not a personal finance blogger, but a music blogger. But then she ended up starting up her own PR company. She just wanted to work for herself and also do what she loved, which is work in the music industry. So welcome to the show, Angela. What I think is awesome about your story, and it's because I'm a big blogging nerd, is that you were also a blogger, how you started out. So let's kind of start from the beginning, how you, I guess, kind of started in the music industry, and it started with becoming a blogger, right?
Yeah, well, I think like most things, my journey into the music industry and blogging was very serendipitous. I was going to my favorite band show, and I just happened to get there early, which at that point I never did. And I absolutely fell in love with the band that was on stage. And I was like, who are these guys? Like, I couldn't get them out of my head. And it was a band called The Coming Week out of Providence, Rhode Island. And when I went home, I looked them up and I saw that they weren't signed. They were just a small band, and I was totally stunned because I thought they were so great. And I was like, I got to interview these guys. Like, I got to help them out.
Yeah.
And I've always loved writing. So I thought, well, why stop there? Why not interview and showcase talented up and coming bands all across the world? Not even just the country, just the whole world. And so I started my music blog, which is called Infectious Magazine. And we've been going about 6 years now.
Wow.
I have a team of about 15 interns at any given time.
Wow.
So yeah. So
that's a huge blog.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't do it without them, I mean, that was even just one of the things is I was pretty stubborn for a long time about doing everything myself. And it took me a while to learn that I could not possibly succeed or have the growth I wanted without having a team.
Absolutely.
So that was a pretty big deal. And it's allowed Infectious to grow, and it, allowed me to focus on growing it rather than just doing all the grind work,
Exactly. So you kind of started this blog. Was this a moneymaker for you, or was it kind of just a passion project at first?
Definitely was and still is a passion project. I think that it's wonderful when blogs can make money. I think, with Infectious, we have ads on the site, just Google AdWords, and that just barely covers the cost of, hosting the site and things like that. But no, it's definitely not a moneymaker. It's definitely a passion project for everybody involved, though.
So you've had this blog for a while. You kind of made this big leap. So you were working full time while having the blog at the same time, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so let's kind of go through that, because I think we kind of have similar stories where we graduated university and had all these ideas of kind of what life after university was going to be like. And we're kind of sorely disappointed by the work environment out there. So let's kind of discuss some of that. How was your experience?
It was terrible. People always tell you when you're in college, you don't know how easy you have it. And you're drowning in essays and deadlines, and you're thinking, this is terrible. But it's no surprise. They're right. It is. I look back very fondly now at my college years. But yeah, when I graduated, it took me a long time, 8 months to find work. And when I found work that I liked, it was at a startup. And, startups are wonderful for challenging yourself and feeling heard. But, they go under a lot of the time. And that's what happened. And I found another full-time job. And I just I wasn't happy. It wasn't what I envisioned for myself. And it certainly wasn't what I envisioned myself doing for the rest of my life. So I kind of started to put together an exit plan, I guess. I just wanted out, I wanted to be happy, and it wasn't going to happen working for somebody else.
And so you decided to kind of go on your own and start your own company, which is now Paw PR.
Yeah, exactly. So I spent, like I said, 6 years doing the music blog, and it was growing, but like I said, it's not a moneymaker. But it kind of, I was so surprised. I would never have pictured myself as someone in the music industry. And the music industry is not what I thought it was when I was 15 years old.
I think it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it has. And it's different, especially, that's like a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole other, yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I decided to venture out because I had been on the receiving end of press releases for so long doing the music blog. I thought, I kind of am getting an idea now what works and what doesn't work when approaching bloggers. And I can take that and apply it to my own company. And also I've built up over the last 6 years this great network of, other bloggers and music industry professionals. And I mean, PR is just, the music industry is all who you know, and PR is just, it's connections. You're just paying for connections when you hire a publicist.
Totally.
So I had all that on my side, along with, I had a plan for what I was going to do to set myself apart because I had the advantage of being on the other side of it. And I thought, well, I'm not happy here. I got laid off from my job. I'm just going to dive into it. And I did. And it was terrifying.
So what were kind of the first steps? Like I always kind of wonder when people start their own businesses, it's like, okay, you make the decision to, leave your full-time job or just, all right, I'm going to start this. What does that actually mean? How do you start a business? What are the first steps?
For me, it was a lot of organization. I'm very much like a list maker and, that kind of personality. So for me, it was kind of jotting down, just simple stuff like, what do you need to do? And so for me, it was, okay, well, I've got to, think of a name. That's the first thing. So I've got to think of a name. And then, you have to start to figure out your client base. Like you have to figure out who you're going to reach out to. And so for me, once I got everything kind of situated, I had a website and stuff, which of course I see a lot of businesses make the mistake actually of not creating a website or social media and trying to kind of launch themselves prematurely.
Right.
And I don't understand. I get it from a behind the scenes perspective, sharing it with people, but publicly announcing it before you're set to go, I feel like you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage.
Exactly. And that's one of the services you do, like you do PR, but you also do digital marketing, which makes sense to me because I work in digital marketing. So I'm like, they go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't launch, a band if they don't have a Twitter account, or if someone has their Twitter name already, you need to figure that out.
Well, yeah. And people don't utilize social media. I mean, especially bands. I mean, I tell them all the time, you guys have got to be using your social media more. And and we're all in the same generation for the most part. So I know that we all grew up with it. But for some reason, it's not an automatic for them. And businesses, especially that aren't geared towards millennials, have a really hard time with the social media aspect, I think. But I think that puts millennials at a huge advantage if they're looking for that kind of work because those people don't know what they're doing and we do. So
exactly. No, I totally agree. But yeah, I totally agree that it's incredibly important to have like a social media presence because I can't tell you how many like shows I've been to where I'm like, I'm loving this. I take a photo. I want to like tag the band in Twitter or Instagram and I cannot find them. And I'm like, okay, well, this was a missed opportunity. Come on, guys.
Or it's a ridiculously complicated handle.
Yeah.
It's not the days of like AIM Instant Messenger where that stuff was okay, It has to be pretty, band name. That's it. Like it doesn't have to be complicated.
Let's not overcomplicate it. I totally agree. So what other kind of things do you do for PR? Like because I was looking on your website and so you have a bunch of current clients and past clients. What kind of things do you do for these bands?
I always tell clients that we have short and long-term goals, and most clients are interested in, of course, the short-term goals, which are things like getting them album reviews, interviews, guest blogs, just various placements on different blogs. And then there are the long-term goals, which I think are equally, if not more important, and that's getting your name out there. I mean, that's all of PR. And so I always tell them, even if a blog decides they're not going to feature you today, like that's okay because they know your name now. And if somebody approaches them about it or you approach them about it and they hear that name again, that familiarity is really, really important. Just recognizing it is going to mean a lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So another really cool thing that you do, and I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, was doing these balanced breakfast meetups. When did that start, and how did it come to be?
I absolutely love balanced breakfast. It's brought me so many, I mean, not even just connections, just friends, like real friendships. So balanced breakfast was started in San Francisco by my friend Stefan Aronson. And when I lived in San Francisco for 7 months, and that's how I came across it. And I had emailed Stefan about like a feature on his blog, and he said, "Hey, come out to this meetup." And so it's since then the Bay Area meetup has grown to over 40 people showing up a week, and that one's every Thursday at 8 a.m. Right, wow. So it's an even tougher time. But I mean, that's just West Coast. San Francisco, it's very different than East Coast. They kind of live like they'll take the crappy jobs so that they can do their art full time. Versus East Coast, which tends to be the complete opposite. But yeah, so when I left San Francisco, I was really heartbroken about leaving balanced breakfast. And so I talked to Stefan and I said, "Hey, do you think it would be cool if I started one up in Boston when I go home?" He's like, "Yeah, I would love that." And then when I went to Toronto, I said, "Hey, what about Toronto?" And he's like, "Yeah, definitely." And so since then it's grown to a bunch of chapters. So now there's, I believe 7 chapters total.
Wow.
It's like Toronto, Boston. Yeah, there's a couple in California. And so it's just, including Los Angeles now, is just about to open. That should be a good one. So it's just been really cool. It's a really, really great way for you to network, number one, which again, I can't even stress enough how important networking is. It's another one of those things people always told me, and I thought, but it's true. It really is like everything.
Oh, absolutely. Like when I, talk to Josh about like how his business is going, and we kind of take a look at like some of the projects he's worked on in the past, we'll look through these names, be like, "Hey, how did you meet that person? How'd you meet that person?" And most of the time it's through either a connection of a friend of a friend, or the meetups he goes to. And it's like, isn't that insane that his business is literally just based on being, meeting people and taking their card and following up. It's kind of, it boggles my mind. It's amazing.
It is. And the San Francisco, I've been out of San Francisco for about 8 months now, and I still get clients, from that chapter. Yeah. Because I've worked with so many balanced breakfast bands, and they can vouch for me, and that word of mouth and having the connection. We have a Facebook group. So once you've officially been to at least one breakfast, you're part of the group. And that also keeps the community, by not just letting everyone join it. It adds to that sense of community.
Absolutely. And exclusivity, and, kind of, I think, makes people take it a little bit more seriously too.
Absolutely. And I think Stefan and I's, and also Andy, who was the other founder in San Francisco, their vision and mine for it is just to keep growing it, because it's been such a great way to grow the music community and kind of take charge of it and not just kind of sit by idly and be like, well, whatever happens. It's been really wonderful.
And you started it also just to kind of do your part in kind of changing the music industry as it is, because kind of how it was, I feel, a while ago was the only, and this is probably like before social media, before YouTube and everything, in order to be a successful band, you had to, get signed by a major label and all that kind of stuff. But nowadays, anyone can kind of record their band and put it on YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever and kind of do it. There's a lot more independent artists, and this is kind of a way to kind of change the industry and connect, musicians with engineers or just people that might be able to help each other.
Exactly. And there's so many different views of success now. And I think before it was kind of either you're going to be on a major label and you're going to be on the radio, or you're not going to be anything. Whereas now there is an in-between. You can have a family and be a career musician. And, there's a middle ground now. And so building those connections is super important to everything. I just can't stress enough, like all the connections I've made through Balanced Breakfast. I've made some great friends. I've I've worked with people through there. Like I said, I think something like 8 clients or something from Balanced Breakfast. It's just, or from meetups in general, and repeat clients as well, because you build that relationship with them, and it is genuine, and that's the thing, is everybody's there because they want to be, because they genuinely, like, it's not just like, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to schmooze for an hour or two and just take everything I can take. It's like, these people are interested in genuinely making lifelong connections. It's not just, what can you do for me?
Absolutely. And especially if it's in, the morning, you have to want to get up early to be at the breakfast.
Well, it's so funny. When I first started the Toronto one, I wanted it to be, I mean, I'm up ridiculously early anyway, but I wanted it to be at 10 because I was trying to keep, to the San Francisco model of 8. And even at 10, people were like, oh, that's way too early. If you don't make it at 12 or later, nobody... And even at 12, people will complain. I'm like, come on, guys. Like,
yeah, come on. Really?
I know it's Saturday, but it's noon.
So you've been doing all these awesome balanced breakfasts kind of throughout these states in Canada, but you're also kind of doing this new thing where you're moving to different cities for short amounts of time. Let's kind of talk about that, because I think that's really interesting. And just like, I think that's like a dream of a lot of millennials of just like, trying to live in a different city and experience what that city has to offer. I think that's super cool and also terrifying to me.
Well, it's funny you say that. That's actually part of why I'm doing it. Is I really like challenging myself. And so if I ever get too comfortable, I know it's kind of time for a change. So I quite like the idea of being terrified as well as excited, because I feel like it's lending itself to personal growth, But yeah, I'm going to be taking off late in June, and I'm just basically it sounds so insane to say, I'm just going to be traveling the country and dipping into parts of Canada. My plan is I start in Nashville, and I'll stay in most cities for a month or two. And while I'm there, I'll build up Balanced Breakfast and get those meetups going. And just kind of implement them everywhere and kind of grow these different music communities. And I plan to write about it as well and publish a book when I get home. Not sure if it'll be self-published or not. Doesn't matter. I really just want to have it written down.
Absolutely.
That this really happened and I didn't imagine it.
And you're able to do this because you work for yourself. And that's kind of I've done a few episodes already talking to people, including my husband, about being a freelancer compared to working for a company. And there are a lot of freedoms. You're able to travel, but maintain your business at the same time, which, most people that work for a company doing 9 to 5 just aren't able to do. They only have like a certain amount of like vacation time.
Well, yeah. And I get really excited when, I'll say, oh, do you want to do something? And, oh, well, I can't take the time off. And I think, how cool is it that I don't have to ask anybody for time off? I can just go, or if I want to work somewhere else for the day, I can do it. And I don't have to worry about that. And PR especially, I mean, it's a bit tougher, I think, depending on the industry you're in. But PR especially, I literally just need my computer. I don't need any other technology. So as long as I have the phone and computer, I mean, there's really no limit. And there was this quote, I think it was from like Lori Greiner of Shark Tank that I saw the other day. And I really I love Shark Tank.
Love Shark Tank.
It's really good. But it was something like entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours in a week just to avoid working 40. But I think it's so true.
It's so true.
You'll work so hard, but you love it. So it's,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the program. I think your story is super inspirational for, people our age, millennials who are, wondering what to do after graduation. I think there's a big shift going on. And I see that especially with my younger sister. She's about, I think, a year out of a year to graduate. And, she's starting to think about like, what am I going to do after graduation? And I think, when I graduated in 2009, I was really set on working for a company because I thought kind of that was the only option. No one ever talked about being self-employed as a good thing. They always kind of talked about, oh, self-employed, you can't get a job. Like, it's terrible. It's awful.
It's true.
But that's kind of the mindset it was. But I feel like there's definitely a big shift in people changing their outlook on like how they want to make their money. There's not just one way. You don't just have to have like one, job at a company. You can freelance, or, something I've kind of been doing for the past couple of years is I work for a company, but then I also have my kind of side hustles on the side. So I can kind of grow my, salary and net worth and money and whatever as much as I really want, which I think is really cool to be able to share to people that may not really think about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, college just teaches you. I think they're still very much teaching the traditional thing of like, this is what you do, and you get a job and blah, blah, blah. And it's like you said, nobody even ever mentioned self-employed as a good thing or an option. And I would really, really like to see millennials understand that it's not only a viable option, it could possibly be the better option for you personally,
Absolutely.
So,
totally.
Yeah, don't be afraid. That's my big advice. I let fear stop me from a lot of things for a long time, and it's very wasteful. So just do it while you're young before you have all the scary responsibilities. You know?
Well, that's definitely the reason me and Josh decided to pack up our lives and, move to Toronto without any like jobs lined up or connections. We're like, you know what? We're young enough and to do this. So if we utterly fail, it won't really it won't impact the grand schemes of our lives, Yeah. It's okay. We can move back home.
Exactly. And it'll be a good story.
Absolutely. It'll be good. Yeah, sort of. Thankfully, it's not, it's working out.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I'd say, one of the scariest, but one of the best decisions we've ever made. So, yeah. All right. So thank you again. I just want to ask, so if someone is listening and they are a musician or an artist and they want to be involved in this balanced breakfast, how would they find information about that?
So right now we have a website that it's, speaking of complicated names, it's actually just slightly complicated. It's balancedbreakfast.com, but it's BLNCDBRKFST.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes for this episode. So it'll be easy for you guys to find.
But it's a good way to see if there's one happening in your city. There's a drop down of all the cities it's happening, and then a link to their personal Facebook event page so you can see what time they're going on and things like that. And if you're really confused, you can just reach out to me and I'll tell you.
Absolutely. And your website for your PR company is pawpr.com, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to check out the show notes for this episode, momoneymohouses.com/15, and for all the episodes up until now, momoneymohouses.com/podcast. Now, before I go, I just want to give some shout outs to some iTunes reviews. Thank you so much for giving me reviews. First, Casey in TO. Yay, TO. I'm really enjoying this podcast and learning about finance from real young people like myself. I like all the personal stories and non-preachy atmosphere. Thanks so much, Casey. And, oh, look, there's one from Blonde on a Budget. Hey, Kate. I'm loving Jess's new podcast. She's starting great conversations and sharing important information with her listeners. If you think personal finance is boring, I think she'll change your mind. Well, thank you so much. That is super nice. And one more before I go. This one's from Kayan Grunding, and they say, looking forward to more from this podcast. All right. Well, I'm excited to share more with you, Kate.